My name is Shai Dotan, Associate Professor of International and Public Law at the University of Copenhagen Faculty of Law. Several years ago, I was asked by the faculty to teach a course called Legal English, a course designed to improve the written and spoken English of our students. Usually, throughout many years, this course was taught by native English speakers, so people from the United States or the United Kingdom, and I was not a native speaker. I'm an Israeli, and I learned English later in life. I knew that it's going to be a struggle, so I started to think about the books that I should read to become a better teacher. And I started to look at the books that are out there, from Strunk and White to more professional books about writing, more advanced or more updated books. And I was struck by something very unique. All these books were written for monolinguals and by monolinguals. They were written by Americans, for example, for their students, college students, and so on. And I couldn't find a book out there that was written for multilinguals, so directly for people who learn English later in life and already know one or more languages. Now, of course, there are a lot of easy books that try to improve grammar or vocabulary for kids. But I was looking specifically for a style book, a book that explains how you can improve your writing if you already know the rules of the English language. And I couldn't find one. So at first I was a bit worried that I would not be able to fulfill this task that was assigned to me. But then I tried to think about the authors that I like the most in Hebrew. A lot of these people that started to write in Hebrew later in life did that when they already knew 5 or 6 other languages. That was common among Jews. They knew the different European languages, and then they studied Hebrew when 40, and they started to write or to translate to Hebrew, and the work was amazing. It was even better than what you would expect from a native speaker. And the reason it was amazing is exactly because they could borrow insights from other languages and inject them into their Hebrew. I wondered if it would be possible to do the same thing in English. And I decided to try to think about a set of solutions that are designed specifically for multilinguals. I wrote a book about the subject, How to Master English as a Multilingual, a book published by Edgar Publishing, and I started to use this book in the course continuously. What I'm going to do in this series of lecture is to give pieces of the ideas that I have in this book in order to improve the ability of multilinguals, non-native English speakers, to improve their English. Before getting into the question how you can improve your English as a multilingual, you should ask yourself the following question: why should I try to improve my English? And there are many reasons, but I think I want to focus on 3 reasons why you should try to improve your writing in English, even if you know several other languages and even if you use these languages for your work. The first reason may come as the most unexpected, and it is that you need to know English well and to know how to write well in English in order to think better. Not communicate. First of all, we focus on thinking. The process of writing is a process of thinking, of taking a big problem, breaking it apart to small pieces, and trying to engage with them gradually in a systematic way. If you don't know how to use language well in any language, you're not able to fulfill this process. I know that in some fields this may sound as a wrong way to think about thinking. I'm aware of this famous story about Albert Einstein that says that if he would get a problem, he would spend 59 minutes out of an hour thinking about it, and then 1 minute left in the hour trying to actually solve it. That's just not the way things work in law, or I think in most of the social sciences and the humanities. If I got just an hour to solve a problem, I would probably spend 5 minutes writing and planning 40 minutes writing, and then extra 15 minutes doing final edits on what I wrote. The process of writing is a very, very important process to allow you to think about a problem systematically and break it apart. Now, you may say, I know another language and I can do that in another language, and that's fine. But then you miss out on all the unique pathways that you find in English to go from one proposition to another. Now, you see, every language has its own benefits, its own unique abilities to address certain issues. There are certain things that are unthinkable in another language. There are several languages, for example, where the passive tense doesn't exist. It doesn't exist, so you're not able to express something as simple as to say it was broken. You have to say I broke it, to take responsibility for that in a way. In every language, even though languages between similar languages have differences that are important, that allow you to express things that are different from each other. Now, if you want to have access to the most powerful tool of thinking that is used by all the scientific community and much of the intellectual community worldwide, you need to know English, you need to know it well, and you need to know how to write in it so that you can take a problem, think about it by yourself, take it apart, and solve it. That's a very important skill. That's a skill of thinking. And when I teach this course, Legal English, I try to put it first and foremost, focus first on that. The second reason you should learn to express yourself well in English in writing is, of course, communicating. There is some kind of a myth that we don't write so much today because we are using emojis, because we are able to write on our smartphones a few misspelled words and they're working for us. But if you think about it, since the phone was invented, people have been using that mostly to communicate. And there have been a few people that wrote very long letters, and the great, intellectual leaders of the time, like Freud, is famous for taking 1 hour every day to write 10 well-crafted letters, and sometimes 100 years later, these letters are even published as books. But that was really a minority. That's not a very representative sample. When you look at what most people do today, they write emails. They write a lot of them. And now you have tools that help you to write them very, very quickly. So you can fix it up quickly with Grammarly. But you need to know how to do it well. So if you are able to produce these emails in half the time, know how to write them properly, with all the help you get with a spell checker, with a Grammarly, they look better. You're going to communicate your ideas more accurately, more precisely, more clearly. They're going to be understood by the people that you write to, saving you later emails, embarrassments, and problems. So communicating in writing is a very important tool today. Obviously, if you are an academic, you have to write papers and books and book chapters, and that's part of your craft. But even if you are a professional, or even if you are an academic, when you're not writing your academic stuff, you are writing all the time. And that's why it's important to improve your writing significantly, to communicate. The last reason is a bit different. That's what I call impressing. When you write an email, you're doing several things. The main thing that you're doing is conveying a certain message. Usually it's a very simple one. But sometimes you also want to impress the person that received this message. For example, you may be sending a proposal for work, or you may send an email to somebody that is higher than you in the hierarchy or could determine your job prospects later on. In those situations, you're not just sending a message. You're not just saying a certain set of facts one after the other. You're also presenting your own resume, if you wish, by your actions, saying, this is who I am. I know how to write well. I know how to write clearly, and I can do it quickly and efficiently as part of my work process. So you're trying to impress a person with your writing. And you'll be surprised how much this matters. So sometimes if I would get, for example, a proposal for assessment, it doesn't matter if it's a review of a grant proposal or any other document. We academics get that all the time. I noticed that many times what first comes to my mind is this person is a beautiful writer, and I want to read further on. And if the writing is very, very bad, even if ideas later are good and all the things seem to work well, probably, I'm not proud of that, but I'm just saying, I think that probably the grade that you will receive will be much, much lower. So thinking in English, in a language that is a leading language today, communicating clearly your ideas, impressing people that can determine your success, your career later on. All these things make knowing how to write well very important.